Howard drove to the rim late in the game, thinking she had a clean look at the basket. But in the blink of an eye, Lexi Hull extended her arms, read the play perfectly, and knocked the ball away. Hull pounced, securing the steal that sent the Indiana Fever charging toward history. After years of heartbreak, missed opportunities, and a decade-long playoff drought, the Fever were finally back in the semifinals. This wasn't just a basketball game. It was survival. 6 players gone with injuries, whispers of officiating conspiracies from earlier in the series, and a team carrying the weight of nearly 10 seasons without advancing. Everyone outside that locker room thought Indiana's run would end in Atlanta. Yet when the horn sounded, the underdog Fever were still standing, proving that resilience, heart, and one unforgettable steal could rewrite history. The build-up to Game 3 had already been dripping with drama. Game 1 was a nightmare of phantom whistles and controversial calls that left Indiana fuming. Their coach was even handed a technical foul in the middle of the chaos, a moment that only deepened the bitterness. Fans, players, and analysts agreed. The Fever weren't given a fair chance in that opener. And when they entered Game 2, desperate to avoid elimination, they knew every possession mattered. That desperation carried into the decider in Atlanta, where the Fever played with nothing left to lose and everything to gain. The weight of the moment wasn't lost on anyone who remembered the franchise's history. The last time Indiana reached this stage, Tamika Catchings was still the face of the team. Stephanie White, now in her second stint as head coach, is the one calling plays from the sideline back in 2015. Natasha Howard was just starting her career. Since then, the WNBA had changed. Stars had risen and retired, but Indiana stayed stuck in rebuilding purgatory. Nearly 10 years later, here they were, back in a game that tested not just their skills, but their very identity. And this was no ordinary playoff scenario. The roster was gutted. Caitlin Clark, their superstar and the league's most polarizing rookie, sidelined. Sophie Cunningham, out. Sydney Colson, gone. Chloe Bai, Ari McDonald, and Damaris Dantas, all unavailable. That's a staggering list of names and firepower missing in action. On paper, Indiana looked like a skeleton crew. But when expectations vanish, desperation becomes freedom. The Fever turned that reality into fuel. Walking into Atlanta's Gateway Center Arena as a team with nothing to protect and everything to fight for, Lexie Hull's night was the perfect symbol of that fight. Early in the game, she played near-perfect defense on Ryan Howard, moving her feet, keeping her hands straight up, contesting without fouling. Yet, she still got hit with a whistle. It was the kind of moment that could break a player's confidence, especially with memories of Game 1's officiating disasters still fresh. But Hull didn't crumble. Even as her offensive game betrayed her, shot after shot clanging off the rim, she refused to fade into the background. She chased, she defended, and she waited for her moment. Meanwhile, Indiana's leaders set the tone. Kelsey Mitchell was electric from the jump, pouring in 19 of her 24 points before halftime. She attacked Atlanta's defense relentlessly, slicing through crowded lanes, stepping into jumpers, and forcing the Dream to throw everything they had at her. Even when the defense swarmed, Mitchell stayed poised, adding assists and blocks when scoring became tougher in the second half. Her energy was contagious. Every time Atlanta thought they had control, Mitchell ripped it back with another dagger or a burst to the rim. In the paint, Aaliyah Boston was engaged in a war of attrition against Bree Jones. Jones had the size, but Boston used her strength and smarts to turn the matchup on its head. Every rebound Boston pulled down came in traffic. Every assist she dished was a lifeline. By the end, her stat line read 14 points, 12 rebounds, and 6 assists. But the numbers barely told the story. Boston's composure under constant pressure was the anchor holding Indiana together, even when fatigue set in. She kept carving out position, hitting big shots, and proving she belonged on the biggest stage. Veteran Natasha Howard added grit, scrapping for loose balls and extending possessions that should have ended in Atlanta's hands. Her hustle was relentless. The kind of invisible work that doesn't always show up in highlight reels but changes the course of a game. Odyssey Sims brought another layer of intensity. scoring 16 points and dishing out 8 assists, slashing into the lane over and over again. For someone who hadn't been with the roster all season, Sims played like she'd been a Fever lifer, fearless in her drives and composed under pressure. Brianna Turner's defensive presence was invaluable, contesting shots, clogging lanes, and making life miserable for Atlanta's scorers. She gave Indiana exactly the backbone they needed when rotations grew thin. And then there was aerial powers. Her limited minutes felt seismic, diving on the floor, swatting shots, bringing an infectious spark that lifted the energy of everyone around her. Every hustle play she made echoed through the bench, igniting teammates who suddenly believed momentum could swing their way. Possession by possession, the Fever clawed their way back. The Atlanta crowd was deafening, shrill with every basket from the Dream, but Indiana responded with quiet resilience. They weren't leaning on one superstar. They were piecing together contributions from every corner of the roster, a patchwork of grit and belief. And when the moment came to define the night, the ball found Lexi Hull, with under 30 seconds left and Indiana trailing. Kelsey Mitchell cut to the hoop and scored a layup assisted by Boston, keeping the game alive. Atlanta answered, leaving Indiana staring at their season's final breaths. Then the ball swung to Hull on the perimeter. She'd missed almost everything all night. Her rhythm was gone. But when she rose up for the three, the shot dropped. The bench exploded. Hull's shot wasn't just points, it was redemption, courage, and the spark of belief that maybe, just maybe, the drought was finally ending. Yet one shot wasn't enough. Atlanta had the ball with 7.4 seconds left, needing just one clean possession to keep their season alive. The Fever tightened their defense, but everyone expected the Dream to find an open look. That's when Hull struck again. Reading the inbound perfectly, she lunged, intercepted the ball, and sealed the win with the biggest steal of her life. What had been a nightmare shooting night instantly transformed into the greatest moment of her career. Hull's steal wasn't just a plate, it was the exorcism of 10 years of frustration. Odyssey Sims iced it with a free throw. But the story belonged to Hull. Her refusal to collapse under the weight of missed shots epitomized Indiana's season. Injuries, bad whistles, constant doubts, and yet here they were, a team that kept showing up, kept fighting, and kept finding ways to win. When the buzzer sounded, the Fever bench erupted. Kelsey Mitchell embraced her teammates, relief etched into her smile. Aaliyah Boston, tears streaming, felt the weight of history fall away. Hull clutched the game ball, holding it high like a trophy. Veterans Sims and Turner celebrated with the kind of joy that only comes when the fight finally feels worth it. Even Caitlin Clark, dressed in street clothes, was in the middle of the chaos, waving towels and posting Fever Show in all caps on social media. Every player, injured or not, had fingerprints on this win. Inside the locker room, Stephanie White reminded them this was only step one. Waiting next are the Las Vegas Aces. The reigning champions loaded with stars like Aja Wilson, Chelsea Gray, and Jackie Young. Becky Hammond had already fired a warning shot, saying the Fever haven't seen the real Aces yet. A best-of-5 series looms, a mountain steeper than anything Indiana has faced so far. But for this night, that didn't matter. For the first time in 10 years, the Fever had advanced. This wasn't just about basketball. It was about resilience. It was about proving that even when 6 key players are out, when officials seem against you, when no one outside your locker room believes, you can still rise. Indiana Fever versus the Aces will test them again. But history has already shifted. The decade-long drought is over. The Fever are back in the fight, and they've proven that toughness, faith, and one unforgettable steal can change everything.